Welcome to the CEO Crowd Show. It is your host and coach Rebecca Nesbitt here. And today we're talking all about real life travel. Like the CEO Crowd, we stand for real women vibes. And today is going to be no different. If you are someone who aspires to travel with your business, it's the whole reason I started my business at the beginning was so I could travel to exotic places and work from there. Or if you're someone who maybe you do want to just have the capacity to stay at home, but it would be really nice to be able to take a huge, all expenses paid vacation from your company and take all of your family and all of your friends to like a luxury resort. And if you have to work, if you have to do like one call while you're there, that's fine. We all have these aspirations of where our businesses are going, and let's like fuel that here. But a lot of that aspiration and finding is very related to travel. And with that, unrealistic expectations are placed on that travel, and it can take the wind out your sails. So this is a little three-part series that I put together that I think can be really, really helpful if you're planning to travel with your business and do it right first time. Really think of all the things that you don't know. If you've not traveled a lot before and you're like, I don't know what I don't know, this is the series for you. So let's get started with an ideal day in the airport. This is the basics for people who don't travel. What we noticed lately, my husband and I have been traveling for work, for his education, and we noticed this in the airport. So many people are charged extra hundreds of dollars at gates because their bag is too big. People don't have their IDs, they don't catch their flights, they're late, they don't have their boarding passes. All of these dramatic situations go down in an airport, and I just don't want that to be you. I want you to have a lot of fun. And the reason that we're focusing on airport is because every single time I speak to an entrepreneur about traveling for their business, it's never like, oh yeah, more travel in my business means getting on the bus. There's nothing wrong with the bus, but a lot of the time it's about, how do I travel by plane? So that's what we're going to focus on today, because that's personally the travel that I like the most. Like, yes, I love going on trips around where I live and all those kinds of things, but I really want my business to take me to Canada. Like, that's a vision for the future. I don't want my business to take me to Australia. That's what I'm creating for my future. So that's why we're talking planes today. And I know that most people want to go to those exotic locations. So maybe you live in the US, but you want to go to Bali. Maybe you're in the UK and you want to go to Australia. Like, I want to cover all bases when it comes to airport travel. And also, these tips are going to be useful for whatever travel. This is just very specific to a walk through the airport. So, first of all, congratulations if you're thinking about this, because you're traveling somewhere really cool. Maybe it's for a working holiday, maybe it's for a training course, a CEO Crowd in-person event, just saying, those are coming. And you're going to get to the airport early. This seems very basic, but stick with the standards that you're given. If you're doing international travel and they say 3 hours before, you be there. If you're domestic travel and they're saying 1 or 2 hours before, that's dependent on airport, then be there. The only caveats are for smaller domestic airports, if you're not traveling with a bag, and if it's an airport that you know really well and a route that you travel very often, you can start to go at the appropriate time, but give yourself more time than less time. The worst case scenarios are going to sit in the airport for another 30 minutes and not a big deal, when the difference is you're not going to get on the flight. And I've been behind someone in the ticket queue, because for some smaller airports, then they'll put everyone that's going by this airline in this queue. So you're next to people that are going to all different places, and the people in front of me miss their flight. And then that impacts everyone else, because those people are like shouting and angry and aggressive, and like it's not a good vibe for anyone. And then you have to wait for them to put someone else on the other desk, and they maybe don't have someone else to the other desk, so you're then waiting and you're behind time. So that's why we're saying, like, be on the safe side. Your airline will tell you, but be on the safe side when it comes to the travel to the airport also. Those are my main tips for how to actually get to the airport. Now, when you've gotten there early, you have also checked in online. This would be the ideal day. You've checked in online. If not, you can typically go to the check-in desk. This can cost you an additional fee with certain airlines, so definitely check that, because airlines will seek to make money at every opportunity because they know that you can't say no. It's a bit like, how do you make your business work? Feed a starving crowd. If you are at imagine you are at an event and you can't bring any food in. The event is all day, and then they've got a line of food trucks, and only one of them meets your dietary requirements. No matter if you're going to like the food, you're going to eat it. And it's going to be the best thing ever because it's available to you. So, feed the starving crowd is what airports are so good at, because they know that you can't say no. They know that if they're like, it's an extra $100 for that bag, then you're going to pay the $100. You're not going to be like, I'm going to leave my bag with hundreds of dollars of stuff and just bin it. You're just not going to do that. You're just not going to do that. So, airports are really smart at making money at each turn. And the more budget airline you go with, the higher those costs. So just be really careful if you're booking those cheap flights. And trust me, I have done so many cheap flights. You would not believe, like $12 back and forth to Milan version of flights. But like, do not put a foot wrong, because that's like $100, $200, or when I was in the UK, it was like £100, £200, insane. So if you have not checked in online, you're going to go and check in, and that may be an additional fee. The desk will require your ID, and they can check you in. So your ID is either your passport, or if you're flying domestic, you can usually get away with things like driver's licenses, picture ID. Highly recommend passport if you want to fly international, because you're going to need it. It's not a highly recommendation. It's a you must have. Passports are really great as well, just because of having another form of identification is never a bad thing in your book. And if you're traveling domestically, then you can use your driver's license. I personally like to take my passport anyway, just because it's like an extra fallback in case I've misplaced my driving license somewhere. You just never know. I like to take both to be safe. So if you are checking in a bag, also called a hold bag, this is usually a suitcase or a large duffel bag that the airport staff have to tag to say this is where this person is going. So that's usually what the tag is. It's this is where this person is going, right? Then they'll tag it with your final destination. You'll pick it up on the other side. So for example, we are flying to the UK this year. We're flying Austin to London to Edinburgh. Our bag will be tagged with Edinburgh. So I don't have to touch it when it gets to London. It will go direct to Edinburgh. So you can also check in musical instruments here, and there are a number of other things that I have seen people check. This was way back in the day, but I do remember my grandparents checking an entire kitchen, and taking it to Spain from the UK. You can't really do that now. I think that the maximum amount of hold baggage you can have, the last time I saw it was like 8 to 10 for most airlines. So just an FYI, there is a limit. So you have then checked in your hold bag. And if you're nervous about lost luggage, I want you to do two things. So this is like from the absolute top. I have got these tips. Is one, you're going to have an external tag. So we have one that says Nesbitt, an orange one that says Nesbitt, so we know that it's our bag. We also have an external tag with our address on it. But on the inside of your checked bag, you're going to have an A4 piece of paper at the top of the checked bag with your name, your address, and your phone number, your contact details, maybe even your email address. This means that if your bag gets to the other side and has somehow something's been lost, they will open your bag. That is like, I don't know why they do it, but they have to open it. And I think it's probably to see if they can find some identification. But this is something I got direct from someone at the airline when there was a lot of baggage being lost after COVID, because it was almost like people forgot to do their jobs. And that's okay. They were learning. Love that for them. But it did mean that there was a lot of lost luggage. And with that, there was also an insane amount of people wanting to travel again, and the airport weren't set up for it. And that's a whole other big issue. But when I spoke to the airline, they said, do this, because then when they see your bag on the other side, if it's been lost for some reason, they'll know exactly how to contact you. Your bag will then see you on the other side and you will leave it with the lovely person that's checked you in, that you have like said some jokes to, been pleasant, given a smile. They have a hard job, y'all. My cousin used to be one, and some of the horror stories. So then you're going to make your way to departures, but first you have to go through security. So this is different in some airports. I remember being in Jordan Airport, and there were so many stages of security. Before you got into the terminal building, you had to put your bag through a scanner. You then went to the check-in desk, they scanned your bag again. You then got scanned at the bottom of the escalator and the top of the escalator and at security. Security can take time, especially if you're in a country that's not your home country that you're used to. Like, I'm very used to the UK, I'm very used to the US, I'm very used to Europe, but you don't know what you're going to experience. I had no idea what I was going to experience in China. I had no idea what I was going to experience in Jordan. So just be really conscious that sometimes security can take a lot of time and it can look very different in different airports. But typically, what's going to happen is that you will check your bag, you will go to security, you will present your boarding pass after standing in a queue for goodness knows how long. You'll present your boarding pass or your app. So you can, for a lot of airlines now, download an app as your boarding pass, so you don't need the physical boarding pass, but usually you can print out the physical boarding pass before you come to the airport. If not, you can get printed at the airport or you can use the app. So you've given them that, you've given them your ID again. Your picture will be taken there sometimes. It's not abnormal. If they're really, really busy, then sometimes they just fire people through and have someone kind of look at you. But sometimes, most times, you'll have your picture taken. And then you enter the next phase of the security line, which is similar across all airports, but you will get direction here. Most airports will ask you to remove your outdoor clothing and jackets. If you're wearing a hoodie, just be really conscious you want to wear something under your hoodie, because they will ask you to take your hoodie off. If you don't have anything under it, they will usually say, do you have anything under that? And if you say no, they'll be like, okay, and they'll let you through. They're not going to make you strip, but it's just like easier across the board if you know what you're doing. So you'll take all of these clothes off yourself. Your outdoor clothes only, keep your indoor ones on. And then your shoes will regularly come off, not always, not all airports, but sometimes. And you want to take off any jewelry, watches, Apple watches, things like that, and make sure your pockets are empty. So no phones in pockets, no keys, no money. And this is where you have to consider, like, what did you wear to the airport? Because for ease, like, I travel in sweatpants, a vest top, and a sweater and trainers, but you do you, boo. I just don't love scrambling. I remember once I was traveling for work and it was like down and up in a day. And I had these like block heels on that also had shoelaces. Not the dream on the other side. I'm just saying, not the dream on the other side. So make sure that you really consider what you're going to wear to the airport in the first place, right? Because if you are wearing like 100 layers, if you've got loads of jewelry on, it's just going to be a farce for you. And those lines move really fast. And a lot of the time there's pressure to like go, go, go. And also you want to get to the other side, so you're on departure, so you're kind of like safe. If they call my flight, I can get there. If they call your flight when you're in security, no bueno, that's going to be a big problem for you. And it's happened to me one time. I managed to get my flight, but that's not always the outcome for everyone. So the next thing you have to think about is your carry-on backpack or small sized cabin bag or your purse. This is different across every airline. Please, dear Lord, check with your airline. This is where they make so much money. And like, we're not against anyone making money, but I want to keep the money in your pocket so that you can go on and invest it in really great things for your business or support for your company, or like buy your kids a bomb present, like whatever you want to do with that extra $100 or more that they could potentially charge you for having a bag that's oversized. So be really conscious of having a bag that is to size. Don't have too many. If you have like 3 bags, then you're also going to get penalized for that unless they can fit within one another. So this is a tip, because I love having different purses. Like, I love having different handbags with me. One inside the other, you're good. You're good. But as long as when you're walking on the plane, they're all within one another, because if they're separate, then I literally just saw someone last week have 2 separate bags get on the plane. So got past the part where they usually check your bag. And then the air hostess was like, excuse me, ma'am, can you please put this bag in this bag? And like, she was at the front of the plane, like all the seats are taken up because like the front of the plane is first class. She's like on the floor, like trying to push this bag together. Oh my gosh, like just so much drama that she didn't need. And like she stands up, she's angry, and she's got like a red face because she's been like bent over and flushed. And then she has to go and find her seat and sits down. And it's like, I don't want that for you. So bag within the bag within the bag before you get on the plane. After when you're coming off the plane, they can't do anything. So you can take them out and do whatever you want, but before, be conscious. And you'll usually be asked in your security line to remove all large electronics, laptops, e-readers, iPads, all the things. So have them, one, fully charged, because you want to be smart if you want to use them on the plane, and two, in a place where it's easily accessible. This is something, bless, my husband has to deal with all the time. His backpack just like is not set up for travel. So whereas mine has like a big zip on the back for like where I just keep my electronics, so I can just pull them out, he has to take like 10 things out of his backpack, and like the drama. So make sure that your electronics are easily accessible and fully charged so you can use them on your flight. And your bag, your outerwear, your electronics, they will all go within, they'll either go in big plastic containers. So usually where you'll put your electronics and your outerwear items. Your bag will either go in one of those plastic containers or it will go through itself. That's complete personal preference of the airline, it seems. And what I like to do with mine, if I usually travel with a backpack because I just think it's a lot more convenient, is I'll pull the straps and then I'll tie them really quick so that nothing gets caught while they're going through the scanner. They will go and be scanned while you walk and you're scanned the other side of them. So you're in parallel lines, your stuff is being scanned this way, you then stand in a queue to go through a scanner. You'll go through one of two scanners usually. Is one, you'll just straight walk through, and if it beeps, then you'll be patted down by the same gender as you are assistant on the other side. Or you will go through a scanner where you essentially have to like stand with your legs apart and your arms up in the air, and it will scan you for 3 seconds. And then the same process on the other side. So do not be alarmed for either of the scanners. If you have anything that will set off the scanner, so if you've got plates, one of my friends used to have plates in her, well, she still has plates in her face. She had to tell them that she had plates in her face before she went through the scanner so that they would understand. If it's a medical condition, if you've got pin in your knee, things like that, just let them know. And if you're beeped, obviously you'll get patted down. If that's all clear, which it usually will be, those things beep for goodness knows what, and sometimes you just get pulled for a random check, then you'll collect your bag on the other side, your bag, your outerwear, your electronics, and they also have the potential of being beeped. Do not have liquids. Oh my gosh. I remember I took my water bottle and left liquid in it. I then had to go all the way back through security so I could keep my water bottle. I was like, this water bottle is $50. I'm gonna get rid of it because there was some water in it. So I had to go and tip out the water and go back through. But that's not always what they offer you. Sometimes they just confiscate straight away. Sometimes you don't have time to go back and do it again. I was really fortunate. I was in LA and it was a very small queue. So just be conscious, no liquids. And the liquids that you do bring, if you're bringing makeup, things like that, then just really look at the guidelines of the airline and the airport. Usually they will tell you how much of something that you can bring, and that's different if you're looking at the metric system, things like that. So I want you to double check that yourself. You can take gels and liquids through, but only a minimal amount of them. So double check that, because that will get beeped. So before you go, you're going to double check that. And then you have made it to the other side. You will collect your bag and you've reached departures, where food and snacks are astronomical prices. I'm just saying. Like, I love speaking greatness over money, but sometimes it is unnecessary. The price of, I got some pretzels the other day for $4.99. Nearly $5. And pretzels are this size, a little bit of hummus. I'm just saying, you can get that on the other side for like $2. So if you're smart, you'll pack snacks. The savvy pack snacks. You will have to buy drinks unless you bring an empty water bottle. Again, stress on the make it empty, which is allowed, FYI. And you can fill that up at water refill stations. They're usually in between toilets, is usually where they are, which is very strange, but here we are. And you can also kindly ask a restaurant if you don't see any of those water refill stations. Food and snacks may be sky high, pun intended, but you'll also find great deals on makeup, clothing, alcohol at duty-free stores if you're partial to a little bit of shopping. So just be really conscious that you are going to have to take this on the flight. So you don't want to, you know, buy 10 other bags and then not be able to fit them in your bag. So just be really conscious of that. You can obviously purchase more storage. You could purchase a small cabin bag and you could take that cabin bag, you could pay for it if it was something that you really, really wanted, but that's like at your own discretion. Just know that you'd have to pay for that if you wanted to do that. So a couple of things, great, they can fit in your bag, perfect. Leave space in your bag for that if that's appealing to you. If not, don't worry about it. And once in departures, you're going to head to the screens. You can't miss them. They say departures at the top, and they always have a congregation of people around them. And you're going to look for your flight and your gate number. Find your gate and know where your gate is, especially if you're in a big airport. Something that happened to me once was I was sitting at a coffee place and it was between gates. So my gate was really, really far away. And there was obviously this group of guys that had been, they've been drinking. They were on it. They were like lads holiday, all the things. And they must have been very near my gate. And they were like walking for their gate. You could hear the same amount of names called as the guys that were in the group. So I'm just saying, you know that they're already probably late. And one of them is like, oh my gosh, like, where is this gate, man? And then the other one's like, they won't leave without us. They turned around at the gate because they did leave without them, and they came walking back. Oh my gosh, tail between legs, not happy at all. Like, saw them come back, and I was like, that's what happens when you don't know where your gate is. If your gate is so far away and you wait until it's last call, what do you expect? So don't wait till last call, but also know where your gate is so that you know how much time you have. And then you can grab your snacks if needed. You can charge your electronics if you have not already done that before you got to the airport. And you can go for a little bit of shopping and wait for your flight to be called. So when your flight is called, you'll produce your boarding card for the last time. Keep a hold of it until you're on the plane. Some airline cabin staff will ask for it and ask for what seat you're in. Usually if you remember your seat and they say, what's your seat number? And you're like, 2D, then they're like, cool, it's here. But sometimes they like to double check the actual ticket. So now you are on the flight. Oh my gosh, that felt a lot more dramatic than it actually was because you followed all those tips. And this is a space where you can do the work, you can stare at the clouds, you can watch a movie, you can write future show notes, maybe. Tell you for a friend, her name's Rebecca. And you can also do your social media. Now, you can get internet on some flights now. It's more common than it is not. Your budget airlines will charge you. Your more luxurious airlines maybe will give you it for free. So you've got to consider all of the things that you're going to want. Now, personally, I don't like to do anything related to the internet. Like, I'll write things and I'll write social media and I'll think of concepts, but I don't want to be connected online at all. And like, people know I'm flying and they know that is like a no contact me zone. And I never feel guilt on the other side if I'm like, I was on a flight. Like, I think that's a pretty bougie thing to say. Personally, I like it. So I don't like to do the internet, whether it's free or not, but to each their own. If you want to use the internet, that's possible for you. You can buy snacks on the flight as well. However, options are typically limited, especially if you have dietary requirements. So personally, I eat plant-based. I don't mind what you eat, my friend. You eat what makes you feel good. I'll eat what makes me feel good, and we'll all be happy. It's not always easy for me to eat on flights, so I pre-pack. I have a niece who's celiac, not always easy for her to eat on flights. There's a lot of bread usually on flights, so she has to pre-pack. And you can also say it before you go. Then some airlines will send you information about if you're going on a long haul flight, the meals that you're going to get, and you can opt for the plant-based meal, the gluten-free meal, things like that. On some flights, there are duty-free items, so like random gifts for people on the other side. I remember once buying a friend a Hugo Boss watch because it was just on a really good deal on the flight. So sometimes you'll get an option to do that. It's a really great way. What I used to do is I used to think, how many euros do I have left over, and like what gifts can I buy people, which is probably not the best way to manage your money, but I was like, I'm not going to use these euros for another like 6 months, so I may as well just spend them now and get the gift for someone's Christmas or birthday. So if you want to like see a wee result for yourself in terms of your money and your gift giving, and people think you've bought them $100 watch, but it's only $50, that's winning. So that is on very specific flights. I've only really seen that in flights like in Europe. So I don't know if it happens. It's never happened to me on an American flight, which is strange, but it's true. And before you know it, you've gone through all of this. They've brought you, drinks to your seat if you want them, which have cost you money, just FYI, most of the time. Unless you're with a long haul flight, then sometimes you'll get things added in. So those meals that you get are usually an add in. Like everyone gets that because you're on the flight for such a long time. Some flights will give you water for free. I remember like the Shetland flights that I used to be on, so the middle of the North Sea, you would always get a drink and like a tonic tea cake or like a caramel wafer or something. So they'd always give you like a little snack. Depends on the airline. Totally depends on the airline. So take your own snacks, take your own beverages, because on the flight, I'm just saying, on the flights, like tiniest cans you've ever seen in your life. And if you bought the same can in the airport, even though the prices are sky high, again, the pun intended, it's probably the same cost. It's like $5 for like the tiny, tiny cans of like Coke. If you're like if you're a fizzy drinker, soda drinker. So just be really conscious of that. And like I said, like before you know it, you arrive at your destination after you've gone through all of that. You're gonna then leave the flight, go to the restroom, unless you've gone to the restroom on the flight. Most flights will, I think every flight I've ever been on has had a restroom, just saying. So there will be a restroom on your flight, unless it's like a very small island flight somewhere tropical that's like 30 minutes and there's like 6 of you on the flight. I'd imagine they maybe don't. But anyway, commercial flights are going to have a restroom, but usually I get to the other side and I'm like, now I'm going to go to the restroom because I don't love going to the restroom on the plane. That's personal preference. And then you're going to follow this signs for baggage. You're going to collect your bag and pre-plan your pickup. So whether it is a family member, a friend, an Uber, a train, a bus, whatever, every airport will be different. And usually they'll share commuting options as part of their website. If not, then you can Google your destination specifically, and there will 100% be some kind of travel influencer out there that has written something about this for your specific airport that you're going to. And then you pick up your baggage. What I will say about your baggage before we close out for today is, if you are traveling somewhere that is particularly rainy and wet, so for example, when we travel to Scotland, I like to have a hard shell case on my luggage that I'm checking in. So if you're just checking in a standard suitcase, then if it's kind of a place that you're going in rainy season, hard shell is going to be really useful because then it's not going to get soaked accidentally. It does happen. But with hard shell cases, when you collect your baggage, it will come out on a carousel. Hard shell cases, when they come down from the carousel, come down, slide, and bump. So nothing fragile in the corners of your hard shell case. The great thing about fabric cases is that when they come down the carousel, they usually stop and they don't get bumped as much. So it is a personal choice whether you want to go for a fabric casing or a hard shell casing. But if you're going somewhere where the weather sucks, then the hard shell casing might be the best bet, and just be really careful of those fragile items. And if you're going somewhere that's a little bit more tropical, then the fabric will probably be the best option because then your stuff won't get bumped around as much. So with that, you then are at the carousel, you collect your bag, and then you have already pre-planned how you're going to leave the airport and go on and enjoy the rest of your day in a beautiful new location. So that was a little airport walkthrough, a bunch of things to think about if you are planning to travel. We will be back next week with another episode in our mini travel series to learn essentially from my travel business mistakes next week. And we can't wait to see you there. Please share this with friends that are traveling for the first time, whether they're entrepreneurs or not. I feel like this one will be really, really useful. And for those of you who are traveling for business or you're an online entrepreneur, and this is a big part of your vision, if you're looking for a place to go where you can ask these questions, like, do I have a hard shell suitcase or do I have a soft shell suitcase? And they just seem like silly questions, and you don't really have those entrepreneur best friend ride or dies around you and you're looking for that, then we would love to meet you. We'd love to give you an opportunity to promote your business through our networking events. And you can hit the link in our description to come along to the next online networking event. You can check out upcoming in-person events at www.theceocrowd.com. And until next week, we will be over here believing in you and, oh my gosh, wishing you so much travel in the future.